How 1968 East LA Student Walkouts ignited the Chicano Movement. In the shadows of Los Angeles, March 1968 revealed a secret few in America could ignore. Thousands of Mexican-American students, nearly 22,000 in all, suddenly abandoned their classrooms. Their dramatic exodus, later called the Blowouts, was no ordinary protest. It was the spark that would ignite the Chicano Civil Rights Movement, forever altering the course of American history. East Los Angeles, a community where Mexican-American students made up nearly 3/4 of the population, became the epicenter of this rebellion. Here, young people confronted the harsh realities of their education. Overcrowded classrooms, neglected facilities, and teachers unprepared to guide them toward college. Counselors were scarce, just one for every 4,000 students. And instead of academic pathways, many were pushed toward vocational labor, stripped of the chance to dream bigger. But beneath this frustration stirred a rising awareness. Across the nation in 1968, protests against war, inequality, and racial injustice filled the streets. Inspired by these movements, Chicano students demanded something radical for their time: the recognition of their history, their language, their culture, in a system that had long erased them. Historians now see the East LA Walkouts as a turning point. The Chicano struggle had moved beyond the fields of the United Farm Workers into the heart of the city. And at its core, it was led not by seasoned politicians, but by the youth voices that refused to be silenced. The Blowouts were more than a protest. They were the opening act of a movement that would awaken artists, educators, and leaders for generations to come. This time, it was the youth who said, recalls Valerie Talavera Bustillos, professor of Chicano Studies at Cal State Los Angeles. Her words capture the defiance that shook East LA in 1968. For the first time, it was students, teenagers, who forced the city and the nation to confront the conditions inside their schools. Their courage made people stop and think, these kids are right. We don't have to accept this anymore. Building youth empowerment. The leaders of the walkouts didn't rise out of nowhere. Many had already been shaped by the Chicano Youth Leadership Conference, or CYLC, a gathering that began in 1963 at an unlikely place, a Jewish campground in Malibu. There, far from the crowded streets of East Los Angeles, Mexican-American students were invited to speak their truths. They shared their struggles, learned their history, and, most importantly, saw themselves in a new light. Talavera Bustillos explains how powerful that experience was. Seeing, listening, and being proud of all of these accomplishments really helped the students think critically about their own family situations, what they were going through at home, and their own lives in school. It made them ask, why should we put up with these things? The CYLC planted a seed. It gave young Chicanos the tools to question authority, to challenge injustice, and to believe in the power of their collective voice. By 1968, that seed had grown into a wildfire, one that would spread far beyond East Los Angeles. In the East Side barrio of Lincoln Heights, one teacher became more than an educator, he became a spark. Sal Castro, a regular at the Chicano Youth Leadership Conference, carried its lessons into his social studies classroom at Lincoln High School. He challenged students to think critically, to embrace their identity, and to believe in themselves. As historian Mario T. Garcia later wrote in Blowout, Castro encouraged his students not only to be proud of who they were, but also to imagine futures beyond the boundaries imposed on them, including college, a dream many had been told was out of reach. Castro urged his students to voice their concerns through official channels, to take their grievances directly to the school board. But when those demands went unheard, he guided them toward a more radical path, organizing the walkouts themselves. The walkouts spread across 5 days. The plan had been precise. 4 East Side schools would stage walkouts on March 6, 1968. But the movement refused to be contained. On March 1st, an unscheduled blowout erupted at Wilson High School, a spark that lit the fuse. By March 5th, 2,000 students at Garfield High walked out, forcing administrators to call in the police. The following day, Roosevelt, Lincoln, and Belmont High joined the rebellion. Administrators tried to hold the students back, locking gates and barring doors. But nothing could stop them. Helmeted police swarmed campuses, arresting students, dragging others to the principal's office. At Roosevelt, violence followed. At least 2 students were beaten by officers on March 6. The walkouts quickly spread beyond East Los Angeles. Parents, community members, and allies joined the cause. Even Jefferson and Venice high schools saw students pouring out of their classrooms in defiance. This was no isolated protest. It was a movement gathering force in real time across the city. One protester's remembrance. Carlos Montes, a student at East Los Angeles College in 1968, was also a member of the Brown Berets, the activist Chicano group that played a crucial role in executing the walkouts. 2 years earlier, Montes had walked the halls of Garfield High himself. His memories were not of opportunity, but of disillusionment. I almost dropped out when the vice principal called me to the office to sign up for the selective service system when I was 18, he recalls. I started becoming angry. I saw that the teachers didn't really care about the regular student. They only cared about the elite intellectuals. The rest of us just shuffled through. On March 6, 1968, Montes drove to Lincoln High School and parked across the street. At 10 a.m., we ran into Lincoln High School and started yelling, "Walkout," he remembers. The principal came out and said, "What are you doing?" We told him, "Get out of the way. This is business. This is a walkout." Later that same day, Montes and fellow Brown Berets helped Roosevelt High students break through a gate locked by police to trap them inside. Undercover officers photographed the chaos, and Montes himself was briefly detained when he tried to deliver flyers to another school. Demands denied. Leaders arrested. By March 11th, a committee of students, parents, teachers, and community activists presented a list of 39 demands to the Los Angeles Board of Education. Their requests ranged from bilingual education and library expansion to the removal of racist teachers, and even a more culturally inclusive cafeteria menu. But the board's response was cold. On March 28th, officials declared there were no funds for reform. Days later, police struck back. On March 31st, Sal Castro and 12 other leaders were arrested, branded as criminals for daring to disrupt the system. They became known as the East LA 13. Protests erupted across the city until they were finally released on bail in June. Castro was fired from his teaching post, only to be reinstated after sit-ins and relentless pressure from the community. By 1970, all charges were dropped. The walkout's legacy for Chicano civil rights. In the immediate sense, little changed in Los Angeles classrooms. But history would not remember the blowouts as a failure. Instead, they became a catalyst for a movement still alive today. Carlos Montes reflects, "It put us on the map. It energized the community, radicalized a new generation of Chicano activists. It taught us that the only way things can change is by protesting and taking up the system." That lesson carried forward. Many of the same students later joined the Chicano Moratorium of August 29, 1970, an anti-Vietnam War march that became the largest protest in Los Angeles history up to that point. The East LA Walkouts, along with the moratorium, lit a fire that inspired a generation of artists, writers, professors, and community leaders. As Professor Valerie Talavera Bustillos concludes, "Those students who walked out really gave back. They became the professors, the activists, the voices of Chicano and Chicana studies, Latinx studies, and leaders in their communities. The blowouts had begun as a cry against crumbling classrooms, but they ended as a declaration of identity, power, and resistance that shaped the Chicano Civil Rights Movement and continues to echo more than 50 years later." If you found this story eye-opening, subscribe to History Love, your go-to channel for exploring the fascinating stories of the past. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Do you think the courage of the East LA students still resonates today? Because history isn't just about what happened, it's about what it means for us now.